here's our titration problem. A 75 milliliter solution of hydrogen chloride with an unknown concentration is titrated to the equivalence point with 27.3 milliliters of 0.157 molarity calcium hydroxide. What was the concentration of hydrogen chloride in the original solution? So first, let's talk about what titration is. Titration is a method of determining the concentration of a dissolved substance by using the smallest amount of reagent with a known concentration so that we can find the concentration of another substance with a known volume. Then we have to understand what the equivalence point is. This is the point where the added titrant has reacted completely with the reagent that has an unknown concentration. So, we know the volume and concentration of calcium hydroxide, we know the volume of hydrogen chloride, and we also know that volume times concentration equals moles. That equation is very important. But what we don't know is the concentration of hydrogen chloride. So this is a diagram of what we're working with. So we know the molarity and we know the volume of the calcium hydroxide, and we are adding that to the hydrogen chloride at the equivalence point so that we can find the concentration of the hydrogen chloride. So, our first step is to calculate the moles of calcium hydroxide so that we can figure out how many moles are used in this equation. Well, actually, our first step is to balance the equation for the titration problem so that we can use that to find the right chemical equation later on, right? So we multiply 0.0273 liters, because it must be in liters and not milliliters, times 0.157 molarity to get this amount of moles for calcium hydroxide. Our next step, which is essentially broken down to this right here, where we're finding the moles of the base added times the moles of acid used in this equation over the moles of the base, where these two will cancel out so that we find the moles of the unknown acid. So after we do this math, it comes out to this many moles of HCl. And then we work backwards using this equation right here, and we manipulate it to find that concentration equals moles over volume. So the concentration of HCl is equal to the moles of HCl over the moles of HCl in the solution. Not the total volume, but the volume of, the milliliters of the solution of HCl. So not the total volume, but the volume of HCl. So therefore, our answer is 0.114 molarity of HCl. Some of the possible mistakes made in this problem is, first off, failure to balance the original equation, which if you don't do that, then right here your math would be off, because you might put 1 mole of HCl if you don't balance it and find that you need 2 moles of HCl to react, and therefore this number would be wrong and your entire equation's wrong. Another mistake might be to use the total volume to find the concentration of HCl, like I previously mentioned, as opposed to just using the volume of HCl originally introduced. Also, failure to convert from milliliters to liters will lead to an incorrect decimal placement and an incorrect answer. And that is how you solve titration problems.